Hi, I'm George Romero, and I have this thing. When a movie's playing and people talk or make noise, I kill them. And the worst thing is they come back to life.
De lucht was helder, de zon scheen blij. En Johnny en Barbara die speelden vrij. Helaas, het kerkhof was nabij. Hun huid grijs, de andere morgen. De moeders eten hun dochters met smaak. Hun lieveling zondebok, vreemde snaak. En schriel of dik, prinses of draak. Geen dieet, dus ook geen zorgen. Zombies zien waar de mensheid staat, die in al haar glorie nu vergaat. Het bloed spuit rond tot de dageraad. En de laatste mens treft straks zijn schepper. De monnik heet de communist, de jedi, de hindoe, de kapitalist.
I was wondering what got you interested in filmmaking and directing and why you decided to do that with your life. I mean, bravo to you, it's something that I want to do, but just wondering what got you into it.
Well, what got you interested?
I like the idea of storytelling and being able to express it visually and also with words.
Same thing, but somewhere, right? It came from watching a flick that you really loved, or you know, I mean, that's what it comes from. You see these, you know, I was watching movies as a kid and just loving them, and I didn't think that it was anything that I could ever possibly do. I thought you had to be sort of born royalty. And in those days, there was no videotape. The news was on film. And the first job I ever had was working at one of these film labs where they were, you know, processing the news for TV. Just hanging at this lab and hanging out with those guys, I got involved and realized that, you know, it was accessible. You know, you could do it. This is how you do it. And all you need is a few dollars to buy the film and like that. So that's really how I got involved. I always loved it. I loved movies forever.
This is a scene from Night of the Living Dead, a low-budget film co-authored, directed, photographed, and edited by George Romero in 1968. Already the head of a successful commercial production house in Pittsburgh, this was his first venture into feature filmmaking. Its flaws were mainly budgetary, while its virtues were clearly visionary, earning it popular success as a horror film and a cult following for exploratory uses of genre and technique. Style is difficult to define, but even in this disembodied clip, the technical aspects of Romero's style are making themselves apparent. They're in his cutting, his camera angles, in his two-dimensional design within the film frame. Great spatial movements from shot to shot. and even within shots. Just making films in Pittsburgh for 10 years has become a sort of stylistic statement. In January of '78, Romero and his producer, Richard Rubinstein, allowed a film crew from the School of Visual Arts onto the set of their latest production, the second part of the Dead trilogy, Dawn of the Dead. Using footage shot over one long weekend, a documentary took shape. But first, let's introduce our cast. In pre-production, George Romero, screenwriter. Richard Rubinstein, producer. In production, George Romero, directing. Richard Rubinstein, producing. Michael Gornick, cinematographer. Carl Augenstein, lighting director. Tom Savini, creator of special makeup, actor and stuntman. Ken Foree, actor. Scott Reiniger, actor. David Emge, actor. John Amplis, actor in Martin and casting director of Dawn. And in post-production, editing the film. Pre-production involves writing the screenplay, raising the money, and organizing the shoot. These are the opening moments of Martin, a film Romero made just before Dawn. As the story unfolds, you'll see the screenplay qualities, all inherently cinematic, which begin to articulate his style. The story is developing with literally no dialogue, and suspense is being generated not only in the horror of the situation, but in the mystery of the plot itself. We still don't know his identity, his motives, or his goal. As you can see from the final page of the Dawn screenplay, Romero's use of the form is unorthodox, in a medium where one page generally equals 1 minute of film.
Martin was a long script that was really a long script. I mean, and the first cut came out at almost 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Wow.
This is a long script that seems long. It's not really long. There's so much description, and if you read those pages, there's so much action described in great paragraphs where I got carried away, you know, describing the action itself. And some of those things take a second and a half, you know. And it's not cutting that long. I cut the first half of the film and it came in at 45 minutes. So I think the first cut will probably be about a 2-hour cut.
Great.
Which is not bad for a first cut.
To what extent do other influences creep into a work, and at what stage?
A lot of people have often compared you to Hitchcock, but you don't buy that. How come?
They have some nerve. No, I don't. Well, filmmaking is funny. Filmmakers, all artists, I guess, to some extent, are parasitic of what they've seen and what they are basically imitating, what attracted them in the first place. Filmmakers, maybe more than any other form, I mean, it's not like you can sit down with a pencil and do your thing, or a canvas, or whatever. It's very expensive, and very few people get enough chance to work with the hardware and get enough chance to really develop a style or except on a very intellectual level. That's why, unfortunately, the state of the art has somewhat gone towards menus and pre-planning and everything else, which is a little bit destructive. I would say that if I'm parasitic of anybody, it's more Wells and some of the early, like Howard Hawks and people like that. Those are the films that really affected me. There are certain Hitchcockian things that are, first of all, I don't consciously, when I'm setting up a shot, say, wow, remember that shot? And then try to imitate that. There are Hitchcock-type influences. I think the sequence in the cemetery in Night of the Living Dead, where you see the figure way in the background and you don't really know what it is, and then it gradually gets worked into the plot. It starts to become a threat, and then the threat is a real threat. That's kind of a Hitchcockian sequence.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Stop it! You're acting like a child.
They're coming for you. Look, there comes one of them now.
He'll hear you.
Here he comes now. I'm getting out of here.
Johnny.
A couple of pieces that I've seen written about Night of the Living Dead say that it takes us back to silent cinema storytelling.
Oh!
I can see now a couple of specific things in a couple of my films that are Hitchcockian in that way. The Thing was the movie that knocked me down when I was a kid. That's the one, I think, horror film, everyone says, what attracts you to the genre. And it was probably The Thing. I was the right age at exactly the right time, and it had exactly the right effect on me. I never forgot it.
The scenographics of The Thing and those of Night and Dawn are remarkably similar. Confined spaces within which groups of protagonists are eternally on guard against a deadly foe. Tranquility never exists in Romero's world. Casting occurs in pre-production. Is it an irony in both Night and Dawn that Romero's main protagonists are black?
In Night of the Living Dead, the character, if you read the script, if you read my shooting script, the character is never described in terms of his color. And Dwayne was the best actor that we knew from among our friends, which is where we cast that film, the way we cast that film. And so he did the part. Now, consciously, I resisted writing new dialogue because he happened to be black, and just let it play when we just shot the script. As we started to shoot and got into it, we lived at that farmhouse, and so we were always into raps about the, implications and the meaning and stuff like that. So some of that maybe crept into the film. But I think in both Night and Dawn, the biggest job that all of us had during the production of both of those films was subduing all of those thoughts, because those things can really interfere with what you're doing, and what you're doing on the surface is making a comic book.
The producer is in a key position during pre-production, securing funds, putting the film into a viable financial and legal position, and thereafter protecting the director.
I think that we tend to operate in more European style in terms of the way we produce and the way George directs, and that we tend to follow Sarris's auteur theory of direction, in that I see my function as a producer in terms of providing George Romero with a brush, palette, and canvas. And his creative control is absolute in terms of the film itself, that he's the script writer, that he's the director, and that he's the editor. And it's totally the product of one man's vision on a creative level. This is the largest budget that George has had to work with in terms of production. And I think that he's got enough money here to do what he wants to do. Okay, it's not an excessive amount of money by traditional Hollywood standards. This is a low-budget picture, Of course, anything under $2.5 million is considered low budget in terms of the major studios.
The biggest difference really, well, in Dawn is working with a little bit of money and still being satisfied with the product. In fact, it was easier. I mean, I was paranoid about it up front because just having that extra weight is a trip. But I'm comfortable with what Dawn of the Dead is, and the extra money that it took to make it what it is was really not a hindrance at all. It was a big, big help. You know, a lot of people say, I can't work with money, I can't work with a lot of people around.
This film was financed in somewhat of a traditional way in that it's co-financed internationally, that a group headed by Dario Argento in Italy co-financed the film with us. And our end of the co-financing comes from private individuals. But I think it was unique in that this project started off with two creative people getting together, Dario Argento and George Romero, and then the business side came after that point.
Now the physical production begins. In this second stage, the director and cinematographer stand to share equally in importance for what is captured on film. It's the 8th week of the Dawn shoot. We're in an $80 million mall in Pittsburgh, which Romero is allowed to use each night from 11 till 7 in the morning.
Everyone ready? Camera. Roll it. Sound. Roll it.
George Romero directs pretty much the way he is. Pleasant, relaxed, great sense of humor.
The best thing about him is that he gets across what he wants without telling you. I don't know how he does it, but it's incredible. Because he's so clear about what he wants all the time.
That when he says it looks good, I mean, we've learned that indeed it will look good because he has a very good eye.
The atmosphere which pervaded the Dawn shoot was unusual for a film production in this country. And while good films have been created by directors who were universally despised, there's no doubt that chemistry counts.
I think George likes confidence, of course, in his crew, but I think mainly he likes to work with people he feels at ease with. That they have to be confident, but beyond that, he likes people he can work with till 7 o'clock in the morning, like we did today, and feel at ease with them. You know, there's a lot of rapping that goes on constantly on the shoots. A lot of fun, you know. Yeah. A lot of hard work. It's a joy working with George because he accepts a lot of input in terms of what I see, or, you know, it's amazing. There's even suggestions that come oftentimes from crew members, you know, through me, and he's very willing to accept those observations. And, you know, a lot of his film is input from the crew. There's a lot of freedom. It's a real democracy with George.
The Dawn production took a month off in December rather than remove and restore the holiday decorations every night, losing hours of shooting time. Romero used that month to cut what he had already shot. By the time the school crew arrived, 4 weeks into the second round of shooting, he had covered the screenplay well enough to stop at any point and edit the footage into release form. It was now in an improvisational stage where new ideas were being developed.
This picture is really designed for right now. It's much more of a comic book. It's much lighter.
It didn't seem so in the script. In fact, the scene we saw being shot yesterday, the pie fight, was,
didn't appear in the script.
No, and I've heard rumors that the ending has been also changed.
Yeah. In fact, we shot both because I wasn't willing to give up the tragic ending. But this film, Dawn of the Dead, has a very romanticized film.
The major change that's happened that I can see from my conceptions of upon first reading it and now is that it's lightening up, you know?
Well, I think the special effects are a substantial portion of the budget, where prior to this they were less so in George's other films. It's a number of explosions, a number of cosmetic effects that Tom Savini does. All of those things take a certain amount of time and a certain amount of budgetary support in order to get them to work. They don't always work the first time.
A squib is simply a detonator. But we placed a detonator in a tube that was filled with gunpowder. And that was placed inside a prophylactic, which was filled with blood. So when the blast went off, the concussion blew the prophylactic and the blood from beneath the clothing. We're in this mall when the mall closes. The mall closes, 9:30 or so. We start coming in around 8 o'clock to get set up and everything. So we only have like until 7 in the morning before we have to stop shooting because we got to get all our stuff out and the mall opens. So there'll be times like in a particular night where we're shooting all over the script. So it has to be done fast because that all has to be done in like 7 hours, you know. George is a wonderful guy. You can say to George, like he'll sit there, be very cool, no expression on his face. You can say to him, George, I got this fabulous idea. Why don't we take a screwdriver? Let's say a maintenance man has a screwdriver on his belt and have a maintenance man zombie attack Scott. Scott pulls a screwdriver out of his bag and sticks it in the zombie's ear and shoves it into the brain, you know. George will go, okay. Yeah. You know. You could say, George, how about if we get dragons coming out of the fountains in the mall? I'm sure he'd go, yeah, okay. You know. You can't shake him. The first half of the shooting was very organized, and there wasn't a great deal of improvisation because most of the big effects were done in the first part of the shoot. The things that George wrote in the script, you know, we planned ahead, we knew exactly, we would stand around the office and he would walk the whole thing through and be a zombie, be the victim, be the helicopter, you know. Very organized. This shoot's a little different. We've created characters on our own, you know, like I've created a character, and a friend of mine, another stuntman's created a character, and he's been developing those characters within the, like as we shoot, day by day. So it's like really loose, this half of the shoot, and just as much fun.
How many zombies are you making up tonight?
It depends. It depends on what we're doing in the script. You know, some nights we'll have 200, sometimes we'll have 5. You know, nights we have 5. You know, they're the concentrated scenes between like one lead. And put 5 around, so it looks like, you know, a continuation of the 200 the day before. You know, it depends. Like I say, it depends on the what's on the script for that night.
Can you explain a little about what you're doing right now?
Okay, these are foam latex appliances sticking on his face. So the zombies are people that have died in interesting ways, or not interesting ways, just people that have died and come back to life. A lot of them look like car accident victims, cancer patients, you know. The one guy came in here in a suit, a 3-piece suit, beautiful 3-piece suit, so I made him up like a mortician would at a funeral parlor, and he was like beautiful, you know. Overly made up, you know, with lipstick and all that. So he was walking around like a fresh one, you know. Okay, you have to lean forward just a bit so I can powder all this. You probably get a little of your shirt here. Others are like people who have been bitten by other zombies and who have died and become zombies. And they're the ones that are the grossest. I don't know, what happened to you? Car accident, zombie bit your face off or something like that. See, the fun of this thing is inventing all this stuff.
You only one clothesline?
Okay, close your eyes. And I'm covering them with stuff called rubber mask grease paint. It's a grease paint that has more castor oil in it. Keeps the rubber piece from drying out and changing color after the makeup has been on it for a while. You know. You sculpt them in clay, you make a mold of them, then you pour foam latex in the mold, you bake it in an oven. I took a big photo tray and sculpted a zillion wounds, cast them, you know, I had those. And I did another one, cast them, and I had those wounds. So every now and then when I'm making a piece, and I have foam latex left over, I'll pour it in one of these slabs, you know, and I'll have some extra wounds laying around.
Are there any schools that teach that?
No, not that I know of. I had to teach myself.
A director must be a psychologist. He must also be a storyboarder, an editor, linking the disparate sensibilities of cast and crew with his own vision.
Okay, if it's straight up, we can do it with hands, yeah.
Tom Savini, now on the other side of the camera, is about to essay a difficult stunt which will portray his demise on screen. One can see, under these specialized circumstances, Romero effortlessly fulfilling his ongoing roles as prime mover of the production.
Keep going, keep going, keep going.
Ready, Tom?
It looks a little off. Keep going. I mean, okay, good.
Anytime, Tom.
All set?
Anytime.
Is he rolling?
Stand by. You gotta go right there, Tom?
Yeah, from here.
Ready, Mike? Joe Shelby's hand are out on what? Joe Shelby. Holding the bench on the left. Oh, no, I can't see any bench holding. Okay. Quiet, please. Okay, Mike? Out of sight.
Okay. What about the approach you're taking in directing it? I had thought that Night of the Living Dead was pretty tightly storyboarded. Is that true?
It was and it wasn't. A lot of the sequences were, as a lot of the sequences in this film are.
Oh. Because while we've been here, it seems very loose.
It's been loose, but well, you've been here only for a few scenes too.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the scenes, as you watch the interlock, I think you'll find to be very, very close to the way that script is written.
Martin. Here in a later scene from Martin, Romero's modern vampire story, one can feel a tight, pre-structured quality indicative of storyboarding.
I had a copy of the script about a month and a half or two before we started shooting, and he already had it storyboarded to an extent.
Who are you?
Well,
Oh, my God. Oh.
let's not get excited about this now. No reason to get upset about anything, okay?
I don't know him!
Were the scenes very tightly blocked off?
They weren't tightly blocked, but they were blocked because of it being such an action scene. You know, we had written blocking just as if we would work in a theater. Of course, Martin was a small shoot. There was generally not more than 8 people on the set in total.
Dawn had, I think, 35 in staff and hundreds in actors.
Yeah, many nights, hundreds. His attention was being pulled away all too often, so he kept himself pretty much by himself during that. But his overall attitude with actors was pretty much the same.
Now, your role in Dawn was on the other side of the camera.
I was casting director. Mostly my job was recruiting zombies.
Creative compromise is the name of the game in filmmaking. Logistics of production force one to make decisions counter to the original concept, but ultimately beneficial.
Well, we were talking before about the fact that when he got to the mall, it had a different atmosphere than he already thought about Dawn having. The mall also brought a futuristic look to the film. It was so vast.
The idea of the mall itself, the moment we see it, the moment we come in and see what it is, I think it's going to become obvious in terms of what we're saying about the false security of, consumer society.
It's a great metaphor.
It's
a great set too. Great location.
It's a great location. We couldn't do it without a mall like this, and we were really lucky to get it.
How has it been working with it? Have there been some
Great.
problems?
There have been a few problems.
Mainly technical?
Mainly technical. No real people problems at all.
When I read it, I could easily picture the editing. I mean, your style, leading the angles.
Right.
But I didn't picture the color designs or what the mall would really look like.
All of those influences, everyone's attitude towards the thing, as well as my own desire, I think, to lighten things up and go more action, adventure.
First of all, you're dealing, as I said, with 300-400 extras in some scenes. You're dealing with a shopping mall as our primary set, where their primary business is, in fact, selling consumer goods. And integrating what we want to do with the life of the mall has been an arduous and complicated task. There is no way to pay, or let's say that there is, but it's way beyond our capacity to pay in dollar values what the use of the mall is worth. The people that own the shopping mall have been aesthetically attached to filmmaking, and they are getting enough money so that it doesn't cost them anything to have us in here, which is an expensive proposition in itself. But if they, in terms of looking at it, are they making a profit on our being involved with them? No, that's not the case.
What about insurance?
Insurance is a very costly item, and particularly where you're dealing in public places. If a little old lady tends to see a zombie, or happens to see a zombie wandering around with makeup and has a heart attack, that's a potential problem. I don't want to limit that to little old ladies, but anyone. So yes, the insurance tab on this particular picture is a substantial number.
All right? Okay.
All right. Yeah, we're actually all right. All right. Great to meet you.
Obviously, you can't light a place this size without spending a week to light it. We discussed doing the whole thing in one shot and rehearse it for 30 days and shoot it one day. But so we have to keep it pretty low, otherwise there would be really dead areas in it.
The situation is not enough time, not enough lights, and incredibly large spaces to deal with. And I think the large spaces and the fact that we're shooting a large number of angles on any given shot are the biggest problem. We'll do a setup, an initial setup, and shoot one angle, and the director will immediately call for a reversal on it. Now, normally that's not too big a problem, but in this case, one reversal might encompass 200 or 300 feet of mall area, where you have background just to fill in, just to create touches, to avoid black holes. Hot spots, there's glass everywhere, creating reflections. My first reaction was total panic. I aggravated myself to death because I wanted it to be better. The initial shots were so big that I had to use every light to its absolute fullest amount. I couldn't skip a couple of, sections and say, oh, I'll fill them in with another light. I mean, I had to know that between every 10 feet there had to be something, or every certain area there had to be a highlight or a spot. I had to know that, and I had to know exactly what it was. And I went back to my books and I read performance figures on every lamp that I have and measured things and went through it over and over again. And finally it came out. We got the initial setup done and it worked. And I felt like about 5 million pounds was taken off my head.
Ricochet's ready. Let's go for one more. Let's go for just one more shot. Have it in and come off to fake cocking action. Fire off one, and then just hold. You can almost hold in your aiming mode, and you realize that there's too many yet. Ready, Mike? Quiet. Sound?
6:59, take 7, so I'm 13:43.
I've never worked with any other director in terms of a feature, but, I know the reaction to George's style is how he gets so many setups in 1 hour. The other directors might spend 3 or 4 hours on a shot, whereas George, I don't think he could ever do that. Yeah, we've discussed angles and style on a previous film we did called Martin. We pretty much maintain that mode when we shoot horror stuff, which is a lot of wide angle, low positions, to accentuate, the monster aspects of the zombies or whatever. That's pretty much it in terms of any adapted style, which we've, intensified in this film or any previous horror films which we've done. This film allows us to be a little more graceful and a little more beautiful with our photography, because it's not simply a horror film. In fact, one of our worries was that we were getting a little too far away from the horror genre. But I can help it along. I understand where he's going. I've worked with him enough now that I understand his direction.
George tends to set up scenes and then let them happen, rather than being extremely, extremely precise about every movement of every actor and the delivery of every line. If he's not happy with the way it comes out the first time, he will do another take, obviously. But I think overall, style-wise, I think that it's consistent. I think that it's a little bit more traditional in that he is using how can I say, a more standard approach in terms of reverses and 2 shots on dialogue and the like. Not a lot, but somewhat.
Out here, shooting, I don't really think too much about the cutting. I'd rather let that happen, too. Except in tightly choreographed sequences like the truck scene and so forth, where I know what's cutting to what.
In this action scene, notice how he has isolated the 3 leads to better manipulate the visuals.
Right.
Close-ups, medium shots, long shots.
Look, man.
Visceral, disorienting angles, rhythm and tension potentials to be inherited by himself on the editing table. The most celebrated shot in Night is this one. A close-up of one zombie gives way to an extreme long shot of several of them, and the film transforms into a vision of doom. A revelation in space multiplies the horror far beyond our expectations. As a spatial stylist, Romero is consistent. He is a master of spatial design.
Yeah, I never really put it down to the use of space, except that's what it is. It has to do with, again, it's just breaking from tradition. I mean, there are ways that you're supposed to shoot that, involving screen direction and involving, you know, a formal patternized kind of cutting, which I just don't like. I think as part, if the scene is a tension-filled scene, or if it's a suspenseful scene or a very active scene, which is meant to grate, everything should grate. How much you work with film, it never ceases to amaze me how different it is once it's up there and you're watching all your footage. It's very hard to translate when you're on the set. You can't imagine what it's going to look like in 2 dimensions up there that big with electronic amplification. But I don't think it's insecurity to say that, well, I'm not sure how this is going to work out, so I'm going to shoot it another way. I mean, that's just exploration. There's a lot of films like watercolor. There's a lot of accidents, and it's learning how to control the accidents, and that's where you just need to keep doing a lot of work.
The key creative force in post-production is the editor, who, in this case, also happens to be the director.
There are a few scenes, like we do a housing project scene where we raid this housing project in the beginning, and there's this, there are a couple of families in the apartments there that we come in and we're throwing them out of the housing project, and various people are killed, and the way some of them are killed just make you go like that, you know. And I saw some of the stuff being shot, but the scenes, but when he put it together, it was, I was riveted to the scene. I couldn't believe it, you know. Yeah, it was pretty powerful. Definitely not boring.
has been said that Romero doesn't allow us to look at his shots. Rather, his cutting forces us to experience them. This is as true of night as it is of Martin. As it is of Dawn. Considering that quick cutting will wear an audience down emotionally, it is remarkable that he can maintain such a level of tension in his films. They contain almost twice as many cuts as any other directors.
He conceptualizes during takes exactly what he needs, and he's very, very efficient with his shots. Some call it choppy, or, some call it heavy-handed in terms of the editorial style.
George's commercial background, if you will, has set the tone for his cutting. That he has a commercial reel that I think is slick as anybody out of New York or Los Angeles, from Mellon Bank and U.S. Steel and Rockwell and Heinz. And he used to make very, very slick 30-second commercials, and he learned a discipline whereby you have to say something very, very quickly, concisely, and get the message across.
The Calgon Story. What happens when a Calgon research team and their submarine are reduced to micro size and sent on a dangerous mission deep inside a washing machine?
Engines reversed full, Captain. We're stuck.
We've got to find out what's on those fibers.
Trapped in the fibers of a giant T-shirt, the Calgonauts discover secrets of gray, dull-looking laundry.
Well, it feels like...
Leftover detergent film. The fibers are covered with this stuff.
Oh, this box has never been opened.
Add the Calgon.
You'll thrill as Calgon dissolves the dirty leftover detergent film.
It's working. The gray is gone. The fibers are clean.
Let's get out of here.
I think I'm in love with you.
If you're tired of dull detergent films and grade B washes, thrill to The Calgon Story at your nearby family washing machine.
This has been transposed into his feature editing, so that there is very rarely a let-up in the action. I don't think there are very many shots that last 4 or 5 seconds on screen. There are not those long camera moves revolving around. All George would do would cut them up if Mike did them.
I shoot a lot, and because I know that I can make the decisions later on the cutting table. And so I wind up shooting a lot of material that I fall in love with and I really like, and there's just economically no room for it in the final piece. So it's harder, and it's very hard to be, when I sit down and I say, okay, now here are 10 scenes that I like, which 2 are the least needed? That's a very difficult process for me. And I think that's where all your bias comes in, and all your emotions. It's very difficult. It's a lot easier to edit when you're up front, when you're writing. There's a lot of people that work with really a formula in terms of when to use the master, when to go in, and all that. And people will say that's very shattering if you don't follow some kind of a pattern, or if there isn't some kind of an expected cutting pace that people can relax and get comfortable with. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think people notice cuts. Or if they're well done, if they're not shattering or jarring, you don't notice them at all. And there's a sequence in Martin, for example, which could have been just a murder sequence, but it's elongated as far as I thought it could be elongated.
Emergency number, call 911.
I can't call 911. That's the police.
It's not the police. It's just a general emergency number.
And some of the actions are very mundane, dealing with the telephones.
Yeah. Look, call the hospital. Tell them what happened, all right? Tell them we'll be there in 5 minutes.
But all of those actions, no matter how mundane, become interesting when you look at them in a certain way.
Mercy. Is Mercy around here?
Mercy? Okay, I don't know the number.
All information. Get the number. Call them.
They're all part of the overall action that's going on, and they all help to build a certain amount of suspense because they're things that we deal with every day.
Shit, it's fucked up. Wait a minute. I gotta do it again. I can't get through. I forgot the number. Wait,
I don't like sloughing sequences off. You know, I don't like car chases that don't do anything.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because within, you know, a fight in this room that encompasses like 3 punches being thrown. I'm not talking about a big brawl. I could, you know, you could do a 3-punch fight and make it last 5 minutes. You know, because everything's valid and everything is information, and I like to deal with detail. And I'd like to just go with a visual, you know, almost a kind of a cubist look at that. And that's another place where I'll just shoot a lot of film.
In summary, this sequence from Dawn clearly demonstrates Romero's style. Conceptualized in the screenplay stage, given substance during shooting, and given shape in the editing.
We don't make distribution arrangements till after we finish a picture. Not wanting to have too many fingers in the pie too soon, not wanting to compromise from ground zero. Eventually we may have to make some compromises on a business level, but at least they start later.
Right.
And we finish the picture, so it's a matter of maybe taking something out.
This statement was made during production and carried with it an ominous note which reverberated for over a year as Romero fought for his version of the film, a strong vision that stood as a thorn in the side of negotiations with distributors, even after Dawn opened to tremendous business in Europe. Finally, a breakthrough was achieved.
We made a couple of errors in signing the distribution deal with Night of the Living Dead, in that we sold or we signed a distribution deal worldwide. We didn't hold out any rights, television, Canada, Europe, nothing, 16 millimeter, nothing. We gave the distributor the world. Basically, I didn't know anything then about the business side of things and about how to draw a contract. Now, knowing what I know now, you want to ask for as many of those controls as you can possibly get your hands on. If you have a smash hit film out in theaters, your 16 millimeter rights are going to be worth a lot. Your television rights are going to be worth a lot.
There were a number of people that offered us substantial amounts of money to deliver an R-rated film, which meant we anticipated cutting the guts out of the movie in order to get that R. We looked for a distributor who recognized, as we did, that the best economic course of action was to leave the film untampered, even though that created other problems. It created the potential problem of a newspaper not taking the ad. It created the problem of a TV station not running a commercial, a certain theater not playing the film. We believe that ultimately, economically, those problems would cost less and we would make more if the film was left as George wanted it.
So I wound up holding out during the negotiations, and luckily, Richard backed me up all the way on this, because there were a couple of times when it would have been easier to take a deal. Would have been financially easier to take a deal.
Right.
And that's the other thing. I think that Richard and I have had a good relationship that way. So, you know, I don't have to worry about my own internal team. That's big, number one. But having Richard's support, I was just able to sit there and say, look, I'm not going to cut the picture.
For a major company in the industry, to release a film without a rating is a major break. And that was something that was long and hard in finding. We basically are in agreement with a system which flags movies and tells people what they're going to see. Our point is there should not be economic penalties attached to that.
But then I also had to fight, and you always have to fight for things like length. Usually with an exploitation picture, a distributor will say, it's terrific and I love it, but cut it to 90 minutes. Once again, there's no secret. I can't teach you how to get the kind of controls that enable you to leave your picture longer or to have that kind of creative cut. It's a matter of just holding out for it and not selling until somebody gives it to you. And I was able to do that partially because of my reputation, but partially just because I sat there and said no.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of sticky times when people would get up from the negotiating table and walk and go home. And you got to sit through, and those are the toughest times. You got to just sit through that and say, okay, we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. And we did see him tomorrow, and they ultimately said, okay, it can be your cut.
So Night of the Living Dead is the beginning, and this is the end.
This is the middle.
This is the middle of it. Room for more?
There's plenty of room for more. Okay. Zombies are still down.
So is this the end?
I don't know. The zombies are a little smarter, but I'm getting dumber by the day.
We're on the set of Two Evil Eyes, the first film to reunite George Romero and Dario Argento since Dawn of the Dead, this time as directors of an anthology inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. Lab errors have ruined 5 days of shooting, and Romero's crew is under pressure to capture a difficult effect on film.
Theoretically, it's going to be pretty well hidden. We don't have to worry about being too much here.
Actually, it blends into them pretty good.
Great. So we can come right in.
The shirt is here.
We should be a little higher, you know, and maybe a little closer. Yeah. So we really see that it's him and, you know.
I brought some paper lab jackets to pass out. If you it's definitely going to come that way and that way. Pillow, we did everything.
It's all here.
Yeah, we should put a slip down.
You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what we're bringing in now, yeah, guys.
Definitely.
Let's get a nice close-up.
Nicotine substitute. 5 weeks. Not a superstitious guy at all.
When did we shoot that? This spring? Is Marty here yet?
No, it's not.
Or this fall?
Is that too tight? A little more room?
That's not a lot of fun.
A little more?
It must have been some 30 days,
They'll have
right?
to, Robbie has to go down there. Now he can.
Now you should be able to. Watch him and Sudden hat. I didn't realize you were here.
Wait a second. Oops. God. Jeez.
He's a little bigger than I am.
Oh, this is made for you. Oh.
Can you do me a favor? Can you reach under there and pull my pant legs down? Otherwise...
Good move, Robbie. Nice line.
Okay, now the other one. A little to the left. No.
Okay, arms above.
Your arms are on top. Are you okay, Ron?
Yeah. Oh, guess what?
If it's uncomfortable,
You gotta wear a shirt.
We can...
flashing. How uncomfortable is it?
It's not, actually, it's not, it's really pretty bad. No.
What's bothering you?
A little, like, if I can have a little pad for my lower back.
How you doing?
Okay.
We don't have beat camera up yet, Zook, so I can't say for sure, but I think so.
You want some makeup in the slice first?
I will be in the show.
Not a fun thing to do.
New appreciation for bingo, I guess. Huh?
More.
Where's it at?
Oh, too much.
No,
No,
it was a little over 1. It was 1 3/4.
Really?
Takes
Yeah,
a little
just
while
keep going.
to slow down.
More.
Come on.
More, Norm. Toward the feet, Martin.
Likely to get splashed here, some of you.
Right. As soon as Marty starts to put it up, then you start. You ready? Ready, Marty?
Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
Here we go. Quiet, everybody.
And you're gonna clear that light. Right?
We're gonna roll camera. B, roll. B, speed. Rolling. Thank you. Start it, Martin Lerman.
Cut. Freeze.
Cut. Freeze. Rami, all right?
What is that on the side of the thing?
That on the side of the thing. Is that the applique?
Yeah. Okay, we need it again, I'm sorry to say. See that, Tom?
If anything, favorite on this side.
That's not what we said.
Should we do a while? You think?
I should do that. Get out, walk around.
Wait, we can, I think it's possible to clean this up without moving anything, including Rami, unfortunately.
Well, the flap somehow came up instead of going in.
Possible.
That's Roy, this if we gotta do it
No,
again.
yeah, let's go again.
Forensic pathology stuff.
Thank you, Jim.
So weird, because that's what's been glued all the way. I mean,
Did it a couple
film?
times. Yeah.
No, it's getting really hard for independents. I mean, the market is getting smaller and smaller, and it's just like hamburger joints. I mean, there's no more mom and pop places around, and if you don't have 2,000 prints out there on Friday the 13th, the date, I mean, you're just not going to get the kind of distribution. You're just not. It's very hard to become a player.
Very, very close. Graveyard Shift was a prime example. Script by Stephen King, rewritten by Clive Barker, George Romero exec producing, me directing. What a great package. New World had that. For a year we went around. We were this close. We were signed. I still have a contract with them. And then they dropped it, saying that we don't feel that we can develop a story about rats. Well, it's not about rats. There are rats in it, but it's not a story about rats. I swear to God, 2 days later I looked in the newspaper and New World Pictures presents slugs. What's the difference?
George wants to have a family atmosphere on every one of his films, and that is what he wants. He can't stand tensions. This is for real, and he can't stand political problems, which is, I think, one of the main reasons he doesn't want to deal with Hollywood.
Many of the little independents have the same attitudes that the majors have. They think that, when they give you their million, that they're buying you. And, you owe them your kid and your house and your movie. And, I just can't, it's really hard to get. They ought to just let you make the movie, even if it's a formula thing like Freddy 5 or whatever, Obviously, you have to work within the limits of whatever the franchise dictates, but you ought to be allowed to maybe throw in a couple of your own ideas here and there. It's pretty tough. It's a mean-spirited market that is mostly controlled by people still that have no affection or affinity for not only this genre, but for movies in general. It's a way to make money, unfortunately.
Go ahead, yank harder. There you go, thanks. You're all copacetic, sir? Except for lining up the draw.
A little more hair on it.
Marty, here we go. Roll camera A and B, please.
A is rolling.
B is speeding. Start the...
Ready? And cut it.
That's a cut.
Yeah.
That's all right. Got it. Okay. Get our Royds and get him out. You okay, Ron?
Wait. Let's, George, is this enough schmack here?
No, I mean, I think it's... I don't think it's enough blood.
I can go again, no problem. Mike, great, thank you.
We got plenty of film in there, right?
Whoa.
Just trying.
Open me up, Bart. Or give me the flashlight on this.
Yeah, I'm gonna lay one on top of the other.
Okay.
Actually,
Sorry.
you killed my bogey!
George did write that role for me. And then there was a big, I really didn't think I was going to get to play it because, well, it was the first time George worked with other producers other than Laurel. And they had a lot of their own visions about casting. And, you know, so I had to go through the auditions with a lot of people with a lot more experience than I had. And I was really afraid I'd lose it. And in the end, I got it, but I felt good about it because they wanted me also.
You don't like the beard? I'll tell you what, neither do I. It's out of here, okay? Beard is history. That deal? What?
When we needed the scenes where Ella was being affectionate with the character of Alan, we had to wait for days when the monkey was in heat, actually, make sure that Jason, the actor, was the first male that she saw that day. And for that day, and for maybe 48 hours after that, she'd be hot for him. And I mean, she'd just get on him and climb on him and start pumping away, and you know. So that's how we got that stuff. And it's literally the only days we had, like 2 days during the course of the shoot when she went into heat, and we shot those scenes like those days.
Your actor sounds like a good sport.
Yeah, well, he was great with. I mean, thank God he wasn't afraid of them. They were pretty scary.
I'll take one after,
Start A and B, please. Roll cameras.
Speed on A.
Speed on B?
Yeah, B speed.
Norman? Cut it! Ronnie, you okay? All right, roid it quickly, please.
Quick Roy.
Quick roids, please.
That's the one.
Yeah, I hear whoever he's with.
Draw me here, please. Emily.
That dude's great.
I feel much better.
Oh, it was that barbecued ham last night.
Barbecued Metzger.
That Swiss steak is too much.
George has this sort of bawdy approach to horror, which is great. It's raucous and loosened me up. I mean, I thought, well, hey, you know, kind of unbuttoned my vest for me and just let me, you know, let her rip. Kind of thing. Very helpful. He understood thoroughly that horror and humor are the identical thing. They're just, it's just the only difference between horror and humor is that you're looking at this grotesque event in a certain way.
Seems like the Living Dead series has
been around long enough to have a cultural impact.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
The Stereo Warehouse on the Gulf Freeway presents Night of the Living Deal.
The big deals, they keep coming and coming.
Jensen car speakers from $9.
Here's a real hot deal.
12-inch three-way home speakers, hundreds of watts, $49.
Final call on clearing car stereos, $19.
Save up to 80% on brand name stereo.
Night of the Living Deal.
At the Stereo Warehouse. Any other deal is no big deal.
Is that a cultural impact? That's, you know, I've seen a lot lately. There's been a lot of little cartoons and things like that. So I mean, it is creeping into the title. I think probably more than the film, and even the image, even the imagery.
Right.
Probably has, you know, people know the title even if they haven't seen the movie.
I really want to play a zombie in your next movie, George. I know it's a lot to ask, but I'd be a good zombie, George. I really would. I'd work hard. I'd shuffle. I'd bleed. Whatever you want me to do. That's all. I just want to say that.
George.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Oh, you cut now?
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks.
I'll see you again in 10 years.
Fine, another 10. We'll keep walking. Keep walking.
So, with Land of the Dead, it had been 20 years since you... You're not George.
I'm Tina.
My goodness, George's daughter. Okay. Well then, with Land of the Dead, well, you were in Land of the Dead.
I was in Land of the Dead.
Shooting zombies.
Shooting zombies. I think that was the coolest role I've ever gotten to play. Getting to shoot a gun.
I have a lot of memories of being on the sets, and I actually, one of my earliest memories is from Two Evil Eyes. And I think that that's when it all came together, that this was a big illusion, and he was making something called movies. And later, we were just walking on the street by my house, and someone approached him for an autograph. And that just started pretty slowly to come together, that people knew who he was. But it wasn't even till in I would say high school that I really started to watch his films critically. And then I started to, for myself, realize that he was really good at what he did. And because I started to get interested in film myself. And there's sort of this hilarious scene that happens in my house.
You invited him, and I'm cooking.
Tina, you like to cook, and it's one night of your life. You should probably make something kosher.
Never.
He's chosen as his office the kitchen living room. So that's the kitchen. And then my dad permanently on a couch with this low coffee table, so he's in a stooped over position with his 5 billion cigarettes in the tray and whatever else he's got, and maybe some Oreos, and CNN on.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Williams, it's Missy.
So?
May I please speak to Tina?
No.
Okay, could you tell her I called?
No. Call back, I won't pick up. You can leave a message. Can't.
Hi, she's in the kitchen. Who was on the phone?
Missy.
Dad, why didn't you give it to me?
We have 6 pets, and they all hate each other, so it's sort of like constant animal war, and most of them roam loose in the home. And then there's my brother and me and my mom, and we have to come in to eat and cook and get water, basic survival, and he just like, our house is just swirling around him all the time, and he just sits there and types. And every now and then he gets grumpy if he was in a zone and couldn't be disturbed, but most of the time he just sort of was oblivious.
Hello?
Mr. Williams, you said you wouldn't pick up.
Oh, right, I'm sorry.
Well, the last time we spoke, back in '89, when I said that I think your films had a cultural impact, you were modestly in disagreement. Now that all these other zombie films are cropping up, do you still have that feeling?
Mr. President, in your recent budget, just to make sure I understand, you're asking for a $50 billion emergency defense supplemental to protect America from zombies.
I believe this is the great challenge of the beginning of the 21st century.
Zombies who eat brains, just so I know we're on the same page here.
That's what they do. That's what they've said they want to do. They have objectives.
with all due respect, Mr. President, are you sure this wasn't a movie you saw? I mean, why?
Because they're real.
Yeah, but why is
And
that?
it's a danger to the American people. It's a danger to your children, Jim. They are a direct threat to the United States, and I'm going to keep talking about it.
The zombies. You say they're eating our brains.
They need to be eating U.S. beef. It's good for them.
Okay.
They'll like it.
For the sake of argument, even in the movies, zombies seem to move really, really slowly. Why couldn't we just outrun them?
If we leave, they follow us.
Right, but really slowly.
I don't get it. You know, I'm cynical about this. I don't think that there's any sort of zeitgeist or cultural thing going on. I think when a movie is successful, it spawns 8 others of the same breed.
And there I am in a room with a half-naked Tom Savini, a dead man from India, and it was quite bizarre.
I wasn't even born when Document of the Dead was made. You know, you were around, I wasn't.
Well, I think I was about 8 or 9.
I was -3, and I grew into that.
Roy?
Yes.
What's going on?
Well, we are finishing up Document of the Dead.
What?
After 27 years, this is the final installment.
Of what?
The feature documentary about Romero.
Well, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for George Romero. When I saw Night of the Living Dead at the Waverly Cinema at midnight, it changed my life. It totally freaked me out. I went opening night on a Friday night, stood online at the Waverly Cinema, and saw that film for the first time, and it scared the living daylights out of me.
When Tom directs Night of the Living Dead, he asked if I'd like to be a zombie in it, and it's like, do I want to be a zombie in the remake of Night of the Living Dead? I mean, this is like the most glorious thing that ever could happen to me in my life.
As the years went by, more acclaim was given to the film. More people came up to me and said, "They're coming to get you, Barbara."
Right.
I'd think, gosh, people really care.
Night of the Living Dead is probably, without question, it's top 3 greatest horror movie ever made, or arguably, maybe you have to put it top 5 or 10. I messed up, right? I said 3, now it's 5 or 10.
And they've got this fake burned corpse lying on the floor, right? So we have to pretend that we're pulling this Karo syrup-filled chicken and roast beef. So it's like, ready, action! Hey, cut! And then all the makeup guys run in. They all take quick Polaroids because we have blood all over us. Then they had these things you put ketchup in, right? They come running up to fill us up with blood.
I particularly love work that appears to be, some people regard as being cheap and nasty, and actually emerges as being classics, you know, because I think it's often typical of the film world to underestimate work that has appeal and dedication. You know, they often dismiss it as being unworthy, you know, because it doesn't look overtly intellectual.
There are people with guns. They're going to get these zombies. My father was in that group. My English teacher's father was in that group. But these non-professional people, the first 2 or 3 times, they grab their guns, they walk back. And then by the 6th or 7th time, the poor people were tired, but they still gave it everything they could.
Oh, I'm gonna be munching on these tonight. Oh, I love these. Oh, you got me on camera stealing Twizzlers? I was only doing this so I can give some to my friend Chip. Yeah. Chip, would you like one?
No, sure, thank you.
And also to Roy. I only took 4. I only took 4, guys.
We were motor scootering through Rome. And Tom lost control, bounced into me.
Listen to this.
Then he hit the wall, fell down.
When you're ready for the shoot, point the camera this way.
I never fell. I maintained control and never hit the ground. But Tom, he totaled the scooter. Mine was fine, not a scratch on it. And only because he is Tom Savini did they let him go. When we returned the rental scooters, they talked a little in Italian.
That's because this pansy lying sack of shit pointed his video camera forward and shot me from behind. But I, being the superior cameraman, was driving forward, pointing the camera back at him, looking at the monitor and capturing with perfect composition.
Come on, man, you can't.
Until he pulls in front of me and stops!
And the camera went flying out of his hand.
No, wait, it's backwards. Don't stop! Don't fucking stop!
But did not break. I still have it. I was shooting with it last weekend, too.
I actually grew up outside of Pittsburgh, near Evans City, where Night of the Living Dead was filmed. I saw Land of the Dead, you know, when it opened in the theaters immediately. Actually, I saw an early screening of it and loved the political message in the film.
I think what sets Romero apart from other filmmakers, horror filmmakers and not, it's not that he's a brilliant commentator. Everyone talks about his social commentary. It's that he has anything to say at all.
George Romero scrisse la sceneggiatura a Roma. Quando venne a Roma la scrisse in un posto bellissimo vicino a un arco romano, un posto molto bello. E così è stata una piccola collaborazione che ho avuto con lui, però a me mi ha portato una grande felicità lavorare con George, perché è una persona fantastica, una persona piena di un'umanità che altre persone non hanno.
When Dawn of the Dead had a sneak preview in Manhattan, it was playing at a midnight show uptown at the Rivoli or something, some theater, I don't know what. And so we go up and we can't get in, it's sold out. So we're there, we're kind of like bummed out, and I'm thinking, let's just hang out for a while. So we're standing in front of the theater, and George steps out. And I knew who George was from Night of the Living Dead. And he's smoking a cigarette, and he's like maybe, I don't know, 2 feet away from me. So I'm thinking, wow, I just gotta go over.
We're shooting?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, no, I
I
didn't know. Next time, tell me we're shooting, just so I know.
Okay.
That's all right. You can keep that if you want.
We're shooting.
That's good. At the red lights. Should I know?
This is Joe Pilato.
Joe?
Joe,
Yes.
Judith O'Day.
I
Judith.
recognize you. I know
Judith. Judith is Barbara from Night of the Living Dead.
Yes, I knew this.
And
I
Joe
knew this.
was in Day of the Dead.
And
he was also in Dawn of the Dead.
I lived in Pittsburgh for 12 years, and we were actually lovers.
Son of a gun!
Yeah, oh, you didn't remember that.
Son of a gun!
That was me.
What has being in Day of the Dead, as far as recognition, as far as, you know...
Absolutely nothing.
Zero.
No, teasing. The teasing. And we had a lot of words to make up for exposition, like Major Cooper died this morning. Yeah. And I had another 25,000 we may have seen Major Cooper.
Died.
Find out how he died and who the hell he was. Me and 2 other actors think everybody else went to Florida. Dead winter in Pittsburgh, you're in a mine for friggin' 8 weeks and freezing. Everybody's going to Florida. I'm going, George, you got to take roads to Florida. He goes, can't do it. I go, George, I got an idea. He goes, can't do it. I go, George, how about this? He goes, can't do it. I said, George, this. How about Rhodes is out there in a tank top, sweaty with his muscles. Sweaty, George, you hear me? Get me out of the mine. And he's digging a grave. And they pull up, and he goes, Major Cooper died today, and so we see. He goes, Joe, you're not going to Florida. So...
And all this has affected your career how?
I have permanent neurological damage.
Come on.
Have this woman shot. I got the daughter of a wet. Come on, Chili. Chili. Get in here. Come on.
My dad. We got a lot of gray hair. Here comes. This is Tim DeLeo.
Chili Billy is my name.
Gary Clark, where are you, Gary Clark?
When the motorcycle gang came in, they needed to get a few actors to actually deliver lines and so on and so forth. And I was there that night doing a stunt as a zombie, and then I became a biker, threw the first pie in the pie fight, and did the machete fight with Lenny Lees.
I have to interrupt. Did you throw the pie into the guy's face that just stared straight into the camera? That was me. Let me shake your hand after 27 years.
It's good to see you again.
Oh my
It's
God.
great to be working together again.
I'm telling
It's a
you,
beautiful thing.
where are
That's
the
way show
pies?
business
Where's the
is.
pie? I
That's
need
show
one.
business. You know, it always is a big circle.
George came to me and we chatted about what he wanted to see, which is like what I'm used to. So to me it was great, but I had one day. Zombies make noise. But I could see the weather and, and George was, just fatoutsed. You know what fatoutsed is? Just beaten, worn out, So, but kept going. Professional does his job whether he feels like it or not, and that's George.
And this is kind of like what was happening to you on night? You had the same problems with these?
No, mine was worse. 2 weeks into the shoot, my wife wanted a divorce. I thought I was going to lose my daughter. That's where my thoughts were. I couldn't wait for the birds to start chirping at 5 o'clock in the morning because I knew we would stop shooting soon.
Oh, God.
And I'd go home and not have to deal with this anymore.
No, I thought Tom did a great job. We had big problems with the people that were financing it. I mean, all of a sudden the checks stopped coming.
Really?
And Tom was 100% storyboarded on that show, and I think that what happened to him, he just got caught. He wasn't able to sort of get off the storyboards and improvise, because we needed to finish the film. There was no more money. They literally stopped sending the checks. But basically, he did I thought he did a really good job with it, and I like it. I think it's, somewhat underrated. I said to Tom, people are going to say, why remake this?
Right.
We did it again as another sort of attempt to establish some kind of copyright. Shaun of the Dead I just loved. I mean, I just thought it was so almost too reverential, It's like you want to tell these guys, get a life.
Yeah.
But I love I love Simon, Edgar, and the whole thing was, I just loved it. I flipped out.
Yeah.
They sent me a print. I happened to be in Florida, and they sent a print down. Universal Courier, like handcuffed to his wrist, this print. I sat alone in the Island Cinema and watched it, and just was cracking up all by myself.
Oh my gosh.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Wait, hold on.
I'm Detective John Kimball.
You idiot.
I'm a cop, you idiot!
I said we'll probably break it and then we haven't even shot with it, can't shoot with it tomorrow because we're fucking around.
Who is your daddy? Oh my God, he looked right at me. You're not the boss of me, he said. Actually, I am.
It's what?
I'm doing, that one's his mouth and that one's his lip.
Who is his daddy and what does he do?
That's pretty good, Edgar. With contact lenses, dentures, hairpieces, prosthetics, you're probably talking about 13 grand.
Really?
Yes, I would say $13,000 to do from start to finish, from life casting to sculpture to mold. The contact lenses are about $1,000. The wigs are expensive. So you're looking at about $13,000 per zombie.
And what does it cost to make one of the animatronic ones? Like the ones that were in Denver?
Oh, the animatronics are a lot more expensive. You're probably looking at $30,000. Some of the animatronic stuff that was done on Day of the Dead looks okay. Like the head of me, the severed head of me, looks fine, but doesn't look amazing. So then now with today's technology, and we've got this beautiful radio-controlled heads, and George will look at it and go, it looks like an animatronic head. And I think, well, it is an animatronic head. So we actually did a couple shots where we put, an actor in makeup with a green bib on so that they could comp the actor's head, which I'm never really a big fan of that because I think it always looks like that's exactly how you did it. But in conjunction with other shots of animatronic heads and things, I think it works.
Okay, wet your clothing too, folks. Dump yourself down because we'll see a wet line mark.
You don't I like, look at her.
You're rolling on this, Terry?
She looks good.
Stand by, please. Here we go.
She looks good.
And here we go.
Girl on the right, put your hands down, blonde girl. Thank you. Arms down. Thank you.
Action, folks. Action. That's the cut. Thank you. Butter.
Is here, called the throat.
And these fences go all the way across?
Half a mile.
I'll just stop when they stop, Joe.
Okay.
How long are you gonna let Coffin push around? You like shining his shoes, pressing his pants? He didn't build that place. He just took it over.
No. There ain't
Best for
nobody.
himself.
It just has to be really, really low.
Yeah.
Because those guys are listening to him. So.
Nobody's, rapping there.
Okay.
Captain Kangaroo just nodding.
Bringing in toothpicks for the bastards to pick at their gums. Well, and food and other stuff for all of us. Remember this, Riley. Both of you.
You know,
Together, we'd be unstoppable.
it's a fine line there, because the people right around him aren't talking, but then in the background you want like where the fires are burning, and you want a little presence. But
Let me do that again. I'm just gonna
I think maybe it's introduce it later when Riley comes through the crowd. Bring it up a little so that it feels like it's those background people and not the crowd.
How long are you gonna let Coffin push around?
I'm looking for a world where there's no fences.
The remake of Dawn, I thought it was much better than I expected it to be. I think Zach did a terrific job with it, and I thought it was great. I mean, it sort of didn't have an underbelly or something. It sort of lost its reason for being or something, but as an action film, I thought it was terrific. But it's more like a video game.
But I think the film he is about to do now is going to be, I think it really is one that he's excited about and is very independent. And
Great, what is that?
it's called, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that actually.
Oh yes, by the time this is finished, it'll be out.
We went through all kinds of different things, and we were thinking, well, it's kind of like a visual journal or a document. And we said, oh, perfect. We'll call it Document of the Dead. Shit! Frumkus already called something Document of the Dead. So that's why it ended up being Diary of the Dead.
I can't believe I'm doing this again. I'm stalking the king of the zombies. I'm on my way to Toronto on a 7-hour train trip to visit the set of Diary of the Dead. Across from me, my noble DP is catching a little sleep. And what I'm noticing, which is really bizarre, is that on this trip, everything I see looks like a horror film. There's a girl across from us. Isn't that a scene from Martin in the train in the beginning? Even the moving fingers? There's where Nosferatu hides out, right? That's his summer home. I've seen several of these on the way up. I guess that's Deliverance. That's the river they went down. That's a horror film, right? You know, this mine here? This is the Anthony Mann footage from Kubrick's Spartacus. Well, that's not really a horror film. But this is. There's the coal chute from Return of the Invisible Man. I mean, I know Whale's original was better, but I have a warmer spot for this. Oh, Onibaba, The Waving Grass, Shindo's wonderful film from 1964. Here's Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, if it were in black and white. Oh my goodness, Carnival of Souls. Wasn't that structure out in the middle of a lake? How did they get it here? I wonder if George saw that. You know, there were zombies in that, and they were so uncannily similar.
Not prior to doing Night.
Prior.
I saw it way later. When was it made? I don't even know when it was made. Did it precede Night?
Yeah, it was 62.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. No, I'd never seen it. But there sure are similarities when I finally did see it. But, no, I haven't seen it.
And there's the tree from Virgin Spring, Ingmar Bergman's film that Wes turned into Last House on the Left. Well, we're almost there. I'm going to head into the bathroom and, oh no, even street trash? And now here we are in Toronto. It's an overcast day and it's raining slightly, and we're on our way to the location, which I'm told is in a slightly dangerous part of town. The usual friendly greeting from George. There's Peter Grunwald, his producer on his last several films. I think I played a zombie. Yeah, I think so. And actually, overcast is quite lovely for this movie, so George is in very good spirits. Things feel a lot looser and more independent than they did on Land of the Dead. And we're approaching the location. This is where the first zombie incident occurs. It's 7:30. That's Alex Kavanaugh. She's the wardrobe designer. She's worked with George before. I met her on Land of the Dead. His assistant director, who's been with him 3 times.
Okay. I've heard so much about you. Haven't met you all these years.
Really? But it was inevitable.
It was inevitable.
And great that it's on this.
Oh yeah, we're having a good time.
So you are what? The producer?
One of the executive producers. I mean, they had to call me something. So I just came up to be with George. Because we've been kind of working on this for a while.
A zombie approaches. As it happens, she is Zombie Zero, the first zombie. So, are you a zombie fan?
I think I will be after this. No, I do like zombie movies. It all started with Thriller.
Oh. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, I was a dancer too, I really like dancing zombies.
Are you managing to work that into this?
I plan to.
She was a stunt person.
Uh-huh.
Some of them needed to be stunt people because they have to take falls and take hits and stuff like that. So actually Matt Berman, the stunt coordinator, cast those people.
Well,
but we saw tapes of them, and they were good enough actors. A couple of them, stunt people tend to move fast.
Yes.
Which I object to.
Yes.
Don't reach for the crowd. Hold the two, because we're losing. This guy's got.
Daniel's gun.
Yep.
Okay, man, let's go, because these lights are impossible.
Here we go, guys. Pictures up.
Jesus!
What?
And action!
Uh-oh. It must be the curse of Frumcoid. Everything's been going so well on this film. Now it's 11:15, and they're still not making headway on this shot.
And action! Cut!
Yeah. When I was on Two Evil Eyes, things have been going well, outside of some lab damage.
Cut, please. Cut. What are we?
And then when I got there, it took all day to get one shot. There were 3 crews that day on Diary, but George was too pressured to talk, so they got who they could. Hundreds of other people, you just see his head move. We caught some of that. After lunch, things turned around, fortunately, and everything that they were trying to get, they got.
Let's go shoot. There was rumor of disarming them. We're not seeing them, so I don't want to blow a take on them. Oh, but are we disarming the squibs?
Do we need? And he's saying we don't see them. Do we see the squib?
We're not seeing them, right?
We're not seeing them actually blow.
Yeah. So if he can just sell 2 more shots that drive him back, and then sell the headshot.
The teeth prosthetics made you drool a lot.
Did they, in the final version, were you drooling? Did they catch it? Because I caught it.
You could see it?
Yeah. There you are, shivering and drooling.
That's
what a moment.
Great shot of the drool.
Marker. Frank. Action. Halt!
Yeah. Breathe! Breathe! No! This can't be happening! This can't be happening! This can't be happening!
It seems to me in the past few years you've become a lot more visible and accessible. Is that just something you've grown into? Is it marketing? Is it?
It's not really marketing. I mean, some of it is just, getting out there, trying to find an easier way to make a buck. Actually, I mean, being perfectly honest.
Yeah.
See, I could basically survive on doing these things if I wanted to sort of retire.
Yeah.
Which I don't.
My dad was the ultimate Santa Claus. And not in the sense that he got us whatever we wanted, but in that he really made us believe that Santa existed. And every year there'd be something new. There'd like one Christmas, Santa left his wallet behind. And in the wallet, my dad had gone and gotten currency from all over the world and a little card for a reindeer food shop and credit cards. And I don't know where he got this stuff. And with it, he left a big red glove. And one Christmas, this is my favorite memory, my brother was skeptical and said, "Dad, I want to set up a video camera. I want to test whether Santa exists." And my dad said, "Okay." And they set up a camera on our stairwell. And my dad got his friend to dress up like Santa and come in. But they waited until like 3 in the morning because this was in real time. They started filming when we went to bed, and they waited until the middle of the night, and they just stayed up. And then they had Jason walk around the house and come into the front door. And my dad rigged lighting outside the house to make it look like the silhouette of a sleigh taking off. And that was it.
It all began on a summer's day when Johnny and Barbara went out to play. The cemetery was on their way. By daybreak, their skin had turned to gray. The mothers eat their daughters with lust. And
fire 1. Nobody goes down. Oh, I gotta. And fire 2. All right, fire 3.
Zombies in the world we knew. The humans at large are all too few. Soon the hemoglobin will spew as the last of them meet with their maker. The monks are eating the communists. The Yeti are next on their dining list. Not one of them ever will be missed. What a world can do without politics. The Jews are gnashing on Nazi spawn. They chomp 'em like chopped liver till they're gone. Their dentures discarded, they wander on, no longer
here they are right now.
serving the Zombies, we are overrun with no sense of love, with no sense of fun. What will become of everyone when there's no one left to devour?
Them on the ground, right? The horse going by.
He's right. Yes. Ready to split. It's
Oh, are
great
you?
stuff. Oh, I know you're going to watch it. Oh, my dust
Summer's day when Johnny and Barbara went out to play. The cemetery was on their way, and soon